think another question that we're getting quite a lot of lately is relates to workplace outbreaks. We know a lot of every different city, every public health authority seems to have their own rules, which makes it even more confusing. But the question, generally speaking, is what do you do if you have an outbreak in the workplace? And we've got a bunch of questions that are on similar points. How is an outbreak defined? What if two of our employees test positive? What do we do? There's a whole bunch wrapped into that. So I think Brittany, you were gonna try to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you've raised a really good point, which is that the requirements are different depending on where you are, right? So last month we talked about the fact that for example, the city of Toronto has institute a positive obligation to report whenever there's two or more employees who have tested positive for COVID-19. So in Toronto, two or more cases would be considered an outbreak that requires reporting to public health authorities, right? I think the other thing that's important for employers to note is that they may also have reporting obligations under the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act, right? So whenever an employee is exposed to COVID-19 in the workplace, it could technically be considered an occupational illness. And an occupational illness, just like an injury, needs to be reported to the WSIB if an employer is one of the types of employers that's covered by the WSIA. So that's another important thing for employers to keep in mind is that it may not just be reporting obligations to public health authorities. There may also be a reporting obligation in terms of alerting the WSIB that an occupational illness has occurred.
Really good point. And one thing I'll sort of jump on and add to that is, generally speaking, as you said, sort of two or more workplace cases would be an outbreak, unless there's some other reasonable explanation or explanation for how the worker has contracted the virus. So I was dealing with a situation a while ago where it was either three or four employees in a workplace all tested positive, but they were all related. I believe two of them lived together in one house, two of them lived together in another house, and they all carpooled to work together every day. So there was a very plausible explanation for how they contracted the virus that had nothing to do with the workplace. Then it gets more complicated if they're all now going to work and somebody else tests positive. Now you more likely have an outbreak that has to be reported. So I guess I'll say it again. It depends, but you need to look at not only numbers but also the factual basis.